Denver police fired at a man in Green Valley Ranch tonight. Police say they didn't hit him, but he ended up with injuries and is headed to the hospital. He's expected to recover. Officers showed up to the 3900 block of Malta Street in Green Valley Ranch about 8 o'clock tonight. Someone called in saying a man was threatening them with a gun. Police say officers confronted the man in the backyard of the home. He still had that gun. They say that officers told him to surrender, then fired a taser at him. That's when police say the man went back into the house and at one point pointed a gun at them from inside. Police say that one officer fired several times but did not hit the man, who then walked out of the house and dropped the gun. Police say the guy has minor injuries.
Down in Aurora, firefighters just finished putting out a grass fire burning south of Buckley Space Force Base. It was burning near Jewel Avenue near E470. Firefighters say no homes were threatened.
Denver police are looking for the person they say killed a 14-year-old right next to a baseball field. Investigators say Josiah Aragon was killed midday Monday. He was next to a rec center by Wadsworth and Bellevue. Today would have been Josiah's 15th birthday. Denver police say Aragon is the 9th child to be killed in Denver this year. 9 News reporter Kelly Rinke spoke with a young man who understands this loss too well.
Josiah Aragon's family should be celebrating his 15th birthday, but today is filled with grief as police investigate his death. DPD says the boy's body was found on Monday near a baseball diamond at the Southwest Recreation Center.
We have alerts, through our collaborating partners, and that's how I found out about it.
Jason McBride has dedicated his life to keeping kids away from violence in Denver. His group, Struggle of Love, opened this place in Montbello for teens to have fun and decompress.
Each young man in there has had a friend die this year, and that's the sad thing, is that they understand what it's like to have a friend who was killed before their time.
Police say Josiah, who went by Jojo, was killed in the middle of the day, around 1 p.m. He suffered trauma, but investigators won't say how he was killed. Losing someone so young is something Jaden Randon knows too well.
It's like you're losing a part of you, or somebody that you can talk to. So it's a heartbreaking moment.
At just 16 years old, he says he's lost several of his friends to violence. Recording music helps him heal.
I'm with my friends every day, because I've been realizing my friends are they're gone after a day. Like even my mom, I tell my mom, I tell my dad, I tell my grandparents, I love them every day, because I don't know if I'm going to come back.
And we're expecting our kids to be able to handle loss and death and violence and tragedy.
Another parent, another young friend is feeling that pain.
This affects everybody, and so this is everyone's problem.
In Denver, I'm Kelly Rinke, 9 News.
Denver police say this is the 60th homicide in the city this year. Again, 9 were children. We're on pace to see more killings in Denver this year than last year's 96 killings, which was the highest number in decades.
A new beginning for the Denver Broncos and Broncos country, one that is making history. Today we heard from 5 of the 6 members of the team's new ownership group in their first visit to Denver as owners. Rob Walton, Carrie Walton-Penner, Greg Penner, Melody Hobson, and Condoleezza Rice all visited training camp this morning. They met with players and staff and talked about their vision for the team. At a press conference this afternoon, Rice talked about growing up a fan as a kid in Denver.
I'm a part of the Orange Crush generation, where you'd go into any grocery store or any restaurant, and there were all of those Orange Crush cans piled up with Reuben Carter or Louis Wright peering over them. And of course, the tradition would continue with the great Stanford man, John Elway, and Peyton Manning and others. This is a great tradition, a great heritage of winning. But the goal now is to build on that heritage and that tradition, to continue it in a way that makes for a bright future.
Formula One star Lewis Hamilton couldn't join his fellow ownership members at training camp today. Melody Hobson said as soon as she came on board, she wanted him part of the team.
Lewis is my chosen little brother. As soon as this opportunity came up, I started off by saying, you have to have Lewis.
Ahead in sports, we're going to hear from Walmart heir Rob Walton and sit down with his son-in-law, Greg Penner, talking about their plans for the team.
A former Greenwood Village police officer is facing murder charges and a lawsuit for the death of a teenager in Aurora. Investigators say that Adam Holen shot and killed 17-year-old Peyton Blitzen the day before Thanksgiving. Police believe that Holen followed the teenager's car and confronted him about his driving. An affidavit says that night Holen pulled a gun. Blitzen also had a gun and shot at Holen. Holen then fired back, killing the teenager. Court documents show that Holen was drunk at the time. Blitzen's father is now suing Holen for wrongful death. Holen's also facing charges for second-degree murder and felony menacing.
Police in Denver are looking for the driver that blew through a red light today and killed a cyclist. It happened just before 7 this morning at 13th Avenue and Syracuse Street. Police say a driver in a Ford Explorer kept going right through the red light, hitting a man on a bike. The driver took off on 13th. The cyclist died. Police say the car should have damage to the driver's side front fender and rear view mirror. They're asking anyone with information to call Crime Stoppers.
Deputies in Arapahoe County have arrested a former soccer coach on charges tied to child pornography. 63-year-old Bud Harper was arrested today after a tip from the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They told the Arapahoe County Sheriff's Office about child pornography that was being traded from an IP address tracked back to Arapahoe County. Harper's in jail facing 17 counts of sexual exploitation of children. He works for the Real Soccer Club as a coordinator and has worked as a coach. In a statement today, Real Colorado said the arrest did not involve any players from their program.
A Denver police sergeant turned himself in today, accused of making sexual advances towards someone he thought was a 14-year-old girl. The Jefferson County Sheriff's Office says it's been investigating 45-year-old Timothy Hyatt for 6 months. They say Hyatt used multiple online identities to make sexually explicit advances to a person that he believed to be 14 years old. He's facing 1 count of internet luring of a child. Hyatt was with DPD since 2005. He's now on non-paid administrative leave. DPD says their own administrative review and disciplinary process will start after his criminal case. There are resources and support available for survivors of abuse. You can call the Colorado Crisis Services hotline 24/7. That number 844-493-8255. The group Blue Bench runs a hotline to support survivors of sexual violence, and that number is 303-322-7273.
More than 3,000 people have received the monkeypox vaccine in Colorado. The state's now giving more than 100 doses a day. They're publicizing the vaccine total, similar to what we saw with COVID. We know that more than 100 people have now tested positive for monkeypox in our state. The vaccine is one strategy to manage the virus's spread, and public health leaders are turning to another one that'll sound quite familiar from the pandemic: contact tracing. Here's Jennifer Meckles.
It was the early days of COVID when many of us first learned about the concept of contact tracing, figuring out who got sick, who they exposed, and if there's time to flag the next person before the virus moves along.
Yes, with the monkeypox cases, we are also actively doing case investigation and contact tracing work.
Monkeypox is a different virus, but tracking cases is mostly the same.
So what's different from COVID-19 is going to be the route of exposure. We know that this is a very different virus, transmitted in a very different way. And so a very different set of questions that we're asking.
Monkeypox is spread through close or personal contact. Anyone can get monkeypox. Right now, the CDC says most cases are among men who have sex with other men. You can see how these conversations could be quite sensitive.
And so because of that, it's really important for us to establish trust and rapport with these individuals.
CDPHE has 17 contact tracers. There have been 109 cases of monkeypox so far in Colorado, and tracers have contacted more than 500 close contacts of people with monkeypox. In California, a state with nearly 1,900 cases, health officials in San Francisco basically gave up contact tracing, saying it wasn't the most effective strategy because many people could not or would not share names and contact information of partners. Colorado says it is just one strategy, but one still worth doing here.
We're extremely grateful to the members of the public that we've been able to talk to and gather that information from. We're really grateful for their contribution in trying to protect our community.
That is state epidemiologist Dr. Rachel Herlihy. So we've been doing a lot of stories on monkeypox lately. It might feel like this outbreak is small on the heels of the global COVID pandemic, but some important context here. The last U.S. monkeypox outbreak was in 2003, 47 human cases, all from contact with prairie dogs. We now have 109 cases just in Colorado and more than 10,000 nationwide.
Jenny, is contact tracing, but that's a very different conversation than with
Yes.
COVID. It's not just tell me who you've been around, it's give me a list of your sexual partners.
Yes, it can be, like I said, a little sensitive in this case, but they said that that's why the idea of trust is really important in these conversations, and making sure that people feel comfortable, right, when they're calling. And they're not just calling, by the way, to talk about contacts, but like, how are you feeling? How are your symptoms, right? There's an element to that here too.
Jenny, thank you.
Calm winds helped firefighters get a handle on a grass fire near homes in North Arvada today. It started about 2 in the afternoon near the railroad tracks off Coal Creek Canyon Road. That's not too far from the Welton Reservoir. Firefighters say the fire burned within 100 feet of buildings. Arvada police evacuated a few homes just to be safe. They lifted evacuations a little more than an hour later. The fire didn't do any damage to buildings. No one was hurt. We still don't know how it got started.
For the last 2 years, every student in the U.S. has been able to get free meals at school because of federal COVID funding. That national program ends this school year. The Greeley-Evans School District plans to keep that assistance rolling. The district's Board of Education voted this week to pay for every student to receive free breakfast and lunch, regardless of the family's income. The district says they served 3 million free meals last school year, more than they ever have before. 20% of students ate breakfast at school, more than 40% had school lunches there. The district's asking each family to fill out the free and reduced meal application. Families who qualify for the federal help will get it there. All the other families will be covered by the district's own funding. Greeley-Evans is hoping that they only have to do it for 1 school year because next year they expect to qualify for extra federal assistance based on the number of their families on Medicaid. It's been 2 years since the fire that's created all kinds of trouble for I-70.
A new kind of theater performance is coming to Denver. Its rock star creator is getting comfortable in Colorado while it gets started.
If you thought today was hot, wait till you see the rest of the work week. We're heading into record territory. Details on the summer sizzle coming up next.